What is the role of a project manager in planning? In this video, I'm going to talk to you about the specific steps that you'll take when approaching planning on a construction project. So in other videos, I've talked about the exact details of what the planning process needs to be. But in this video, I'm going to talk specifically about your role. So you have so much going on. In my opinion, you need to know where to really zoom in and participate, and how to balance the responsibilities between you and the superintendent or any other stakeholders on the project. So that's what we're going to cover right now. Okay, so when I'm picturing this all the way from the proposal phase to your notice to proceed, and then your notice to proceed on. And I'm, like I already said, going to specifically talk to you about your part in this. So let's begin right now. Number one, you will oversee the project scope definition. That means that you properly understand exactly what the scope of the project is, exactly what the owner wants, and what the conditions of satisfaction would be. So in the pre-construction phase, when you're in the proposal, you'll be creating a part of your plan to do your proposal and interview. Then you will be setting up your macro level TAC plan and your overall project strategy in kind of the concept schematic design phase, so that you can make sure the parameters are set. Then in design development, you'll be doing real-time budgeting, constructability reviews, and scheduling efforts to enable the design team. Then at the end of design development, the beginning of the CD phase, you'll be making sure that all of the deliverables as a part of your plan are vetted, and that before you have your NTP, or basically you have a final signed prime agreement and you're ready to go on the project, that everything has been reviewed and dialed in. But the bottom line is, where you step in throughout all of those different phases is to make sure that the team is capturing the entire complete total project scope. As this is being done, you will, I'm going to say the word broker, but you're a builder obviously, but you will broker the resources that will get this plan put together at the right different times, right? In the proposal phase, you might be using your VDC resources, you might be utilizing a general superintendent, some other folks from a fresh eyes perspective. Hopefully, as you get to the design development, you're bringing on the builders, meaning the superintendent, the assistant supers, your general foreman, some of your early design assist trade partners, to help make sure that that plan is happening. But the focus is, we need you to make sure that everything is broken down properly, time by location, and that you have a tax plan, you have your logistics plan, your zone maps, that you have your risk and opportunity register, and any other key planning documents that are being developed throughout, so that you can provide that real-time information. Number three, you as the project manager are going to be taking the overall duration and the strategic plan and constantly be making sure that your general conditions and general requirements are reflecting that overall duration, and that any of the approaches that we're going to take from a logistics standpoint and from an overall strategy standpoint are being pulled into your general requirements, and that any special needs from a budget consideration is being pulled, that they are being pulled into scope and being priced properly to go into the budget. Number four, as the team throughout from beginning to end of the pre-construction process and the planning process, as they develop this production plan, you'll be constantly anchoring that to other projects and helping the team to identify and mitigate risks. So any good plan has got to sustain, I would say, critique or review or feedback, and meaning that it needs to go through a review and an iteration process to make sure that the risks are identified and abated as much as we possibly can. And so you'll curate those experiences. So early on in the proposal and interview, yes. Throughout with little miniature reviews, yes, and especially before we get our NTP, going through with the project team and doing a deep dive, fresh eyes, and risk review meeting is absolutely crucial. Number five, and this is key, as a project manager throughout the project planning phase, you'll be always aligning our supply chains, the procurement, to the overall plan, and again working backwards, or actually the way you view it, working backwards. And that means that once we know when our phases start, we know, working backwards, the buffer time, the delivery time, the fabrication time, which is your overall lead time, and then the time that you need for submittals and buyout. And you're going to work all of that back. I did that wrong. Work all of it back to where you know when you need to start for your procurement items and to manage the supply chain. So as a project manager, you will always be linking construction with the supply chain. Number 6, resource management. So you'll always be, and I've said always a lot, but there's a lot of always in your position, but you'll always be making sure that you're brokering resources. So throughout, we may need, like I said, VDC help and some marketing help early on when we are in the schematic design phase. When we're in that early or concept and schematic design phase, we will be doing conceptual estimates, maybe pulling in some help from some other resources to not only model your schedule, but to get comps and to compare your initial plan with other projects from an anchoring standpoint to see what their overall durations were and if they had any overruns. And I could just keep going on, but throughout, whether you need a software or a trade partner or a service or a third party or a second set of eyes or a meeting or whatever you need, the project manager will be constantly asking, what do you need to make sure that this production plan is correct, and really brokering that and procuring that and making sure that it is a curated process throughout. Well, like I said, one of the best things that a project manager can say, and this is not demeaning in any way, is what do you need, what do you need, what do you need? So throughout the planning process, it is the PM's job to make sure the resources are obtained to make sure the proper planning is in place. Let me give you 2 quick examples of that in case that's vague. Let's say that you needed to, you're doing self-perform, then you need to procure some help from the formwork company to actually look at production rates and actually create a production plan and do some on-site training. The PM would help with that. Or let's say, for instance, for the design effort, you need some early design assist trade partners. The PM would make sure that we get that resource, or that you have to release certain items early on in pre-construction to get them on time for the project. These are all things that the project manager would curate for the job site team. Number 7, quality planning. This is huge. This means that the planning takes into account the quality product that we want to, or that we, basically per the owner's requirements, that we need to implement. Like an example that stands out to me considerably is on one of the projects we had exposed concrete columns that had type 3 cement in them that were a really, really light color that had to have beautiful crisp corners and perfect alignment. And that operation took quite a bit longer than just doing normal columns. And I remember another job where there was exposed concrete on the underside and the edges of the deck, and it required a specific forming system with a specific type of plywood that took a considerable amount longer to install. And so the project manager is always asking, well, does this plan take into consideration the quality requirements for that install? Number 8, the PM will always make sure that these plans are visually formatted and beautiful and able to be pulled up on the screen or on the wall. Number 9, the stakeholders will always be informed of the planning and be able to see it in that visual format again. And the PM will make sure that the communication is happening for what the plan is, and that it's in a format that the owner understands, and that they are briefed often. And then number 10, if you have the people and you have the plan and you have the resources and you have the environment, the other thing that you really need to make sure that you're planning is to make sure that you have permissions and approvals. So you as a project manager, when you're looking at this production plan, you're going to ask yourself, do I have the permits? And do I have the financial approvals for this to make sure that the work can flow properly? And those are some of the key things. So I know that 10 items might seem like a lot, but we'll give you in the description below, a nice little formatted blog post for this. So you can take, let's say you're in pre-construction right now, take that and go ahead and implement it. One of the things also that I want to say is that we at Elevate and LeanTech do consulting for this specifically. So if you want help, if you want that personal support, if you want that guide, put us in. And you can put us in as a part of your normal standard billing rates, like we were an assistant PM or an assistant super as a part of this process. It's not a big deal. You need the support that's required during this process. So I hope that you're able to plug in at these specific different points along the way, and that you've loved this video. If you have, please like and subscribe and help us to share this content. But ultimately, you are very busy. You need support. These are the key places where you must plug in the planning process. I hope you've enjoyed this. On we go.